Thank you, Dr. Narasimham Jammi, for this interview. Your background in molecular pharmacologist with a PhD in biological chemistry from University of Utah, and you have a postdoctoral fellowship from Stanford. I would like to ask you this one question that's on everyone's mind, the hottest topic in town. Does cow urine have any medicinal benefits?
Yeah, well, it is a hot button issue, and you know what? We all know what Professor Kamakoti said, right? And you have to analyze what he said. Did he say anything wrong? Did he make stuff up, or is it actually a fact? Now, somebody of the caliber of Professor Kamakoti would not have said anything if he hadn't researched it. Now, what did he say? He said cow urine has medicinal benefits. That's what he said. Now, I have an answer that is very unambiguous. Let me be very clear in saying this. Cow urine does indeed have medicinal benefits. Professor Kamakoti was right on the money. He's the director of IIT Madras. He's not going to make such statements lightly. But let's not use that as the parameter for accepting or negating what he says. Let's do our own research. And my profession right now is I am a scientist who's working on understanding how Ayurveda works at the molecular level. And a very cursory initial search on the internet revealed 3 patents to me. I have them all here. 3 patents that have shown, US patents, that have shown that cow urine does indeed have medicinal benefits. The first patent is from May 2010. It's titled Composition for Protecting and or Repairing DNA from Oxidative Damages and the Method Thereof, where they use redistilled cow's urine distillate. Okay, that's the first patent. The second patent that was earlier in 2005 talks about the use of a bioactive fraction from cow urine distillate as a bioenhancer of anti-infective and anti-cancer agents. And an even earlier patent from 2002 says a pharmaceutical composition containing cow urine distillate and an antibiotic. Now, all 3 of these patents are not something that just are given out. A patent has to have a certain set of criterion. The first one, obviously, it has to be useful. There's got to be a utility associated with it. 2, it has to be novel. 3, there has to be what is the third one is that it has to be non-obvious. Okay, and the fourth one is that it should be something that has never been done before. Okay, now all of these 3 patents satisfy that criterion, and what they have shown is that cow urine distillate actually has medicinal benefits as an anti-cancer agent, improving the efficiency of an antibiotic, and also used as a bioenhancer. So Professor Kamakoti was 100% on the money when he said that cow urine has got medicinal benefits. It's science. Please do your research. Don't believe anything anybody says. Do the research the right way. Thank you.
What's the difference between cow urine and cow urine distillate?
Okay. Cow urine is just raw cow urine. It's what you get from the cow. Okay. Cow urine distillate is what happens when you concentrate it. When you go through a series of steps to concentrate cow urine, that's called cow urine distillate. You'll have to go through an extraction process. You have to mix it with a couple of solvents, then take the aqueous phase. Aqueous phase is the water phase, and then keep doing it until you retain the most bioactive components of cow urine. That's called a cow urine distillate. Essentially, in layman's terms, it's a concentrated version of cow urine.
Where are the practical application of cow urine distillate, be it Ayurvedic medicines or allopathic medicines?
As a matter of fact, all these 3 patents were not done by Ayurvedic scientists. They were done by scientists from CSIR. CSIR is the Center for a Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, nodal premier scientific agency run by the government of India. And if you notice, these have nothing to do with politics. All of these patents happened at various time frames over the last 25 years. So we have to understand that it has nothing to do with the current dispensation, and science is science. Let's go where the science leads us. Where are the efficacy, where are the usefulness of cow urine? The first one they've talked about is enhancing the efficiency of an antibiotic. A tuberculosis drug called rifampicin has been shown to be much more efficient when combined with cow urine distillate. The other one is they've shown that an anti-cancer agent called Taxol, that seems to have increased its efficiency and in the presence of cow urine. There is also a set of, the third one was oxidative and damages of DNA. So it helps in the repair of DNA from oxidative damages. So there is immense scientific and medicinal benefit from the use of cow urine. It's just that we have to make sure that people don't get carried away in the politics of this all. This is just pure science, and that's exactly what I'm here to talk about.
What's in a cow urine that makes it medicinally beneficial?
Oh, excellent question. So cow urine distillate, I mean the concentrated form of cow urine contains a lot of peptides. Peptides are nothing but short amino acid chain of a set of amino acids, a very small version of proteins. Again, a very 30,000 feet level explanation of what a peptide is, and it contains various peptides. It contains matrix metalloproteinases. It contains something called kallikrein. It also contains other molecules that help in enhancing the activities of biomolecules. Zinc has shown to be enhanced. The activity of zinc has been shown to be enhanced in the presence of cow urine. Kallikrein, one of the peptides that I just mentioned, is actually a very important system that is involved in regulation of blood pressure in the human body. There's a system called the kallikrein-kinin system, which regulates blood pressure, and use of cow urine has shown to have cardioprotective effects. Matrix metalloproteinases, another set of peptides that I talked about a few seconds ago, is involved in repair of tissue, activation of platelets to help with wound healing, and so on and so forth. So the benefits are immense. In Ayurveda has actually used cow urine traditionally over the last several thousands of years to purify toxins. Datura is a very toxic plant. It's used to purify, cow urine is used to purify datura. It is also used to purify ballataka. Ballataka is Semicarpus anacardium. That is also toxic, and that is also used. Cow urine is used to purify that particular plant as well. So it's a great detoxifier for a lot of Ayurvedic plants.
What would you like to tell people who consider this to be pseudoscience?
Very simple. It's not pseudoscience. It's straightforward, hardcore science. It's been shown, proven, and like I keep saying, the patent office just doesn't hand out patents wherever you are in the world. There's a lot of scrutiny that goes about it. There's a lot of data. There's a lot of scientific rigor in this. Obviously, we need to make sure that it sees the light at the end of the tunnel in terms of proper pharmaceutical formulation, but there is no two questions about the fact that this is actually medicinal. We just need to make sure that we understand the science properly before we start poo-pooing it. Okay?
One of the reasons why people call it pseudoscience is because of lack of clinical trials or clinical testing. For many people, that's the only criteria to determine if something is science or pseudoscience. What do you have to say to that?
See, clinical trials are highly overrated. So if it's a novel compound, if it's a brand new compound that you've synthesized, that you've actually discovered, then yes, I would be the first person to say, hey, where are the clinical trials for this? You have several compounds that have been found in nature. I'll give you a very simple example. Take clove, for example, long. And it's well known that it's got great potential for protecting your teeth, reducing the pain in the teeth. It's got a great analgesic effect. Do you need to do clinical trials for that? You don't, right? I mean, there's a lot of empirical evidence. There's a lot of evidence that has been passed on for several thousands of years. And that's why the beauty of Ayurvedic sciences in India is that you have experts scrutinizing formulations, telling you whether this makes sense or not. So one of the laws of Ayurvedic medicinal licensing in India is that as long as you have an indigenous plant that makes sense in terms of its combination with other plants, it can be granted a license. You don't really need to do clinical trials, and we can't be using the same yardstick that the West follows for Ayurvedic plants. It's irrelevant. Of course, if you discovered a new species of plants and if you think that there's medicinal benefits from that plant, by all means, we should be doing clinical trials, but it cannot be the only way in which you think that if you don't do clinical trials, then it's not scientific. That's exactly not how you should be going about doing this.
You are a molecular pharmacologist and you're also heading Jammi Pharmaceuticals. How do you apply clinical trials in your line of work?
Okay, great question, right? So I am a proponent of clinical trials where necessary, right? So we've come up with a unique formulation with various plants for treating and curing PCOS. PCOS is a scourge for a lot of women. It's in reproductive ages from 13 till 35. A lot of women end up having infertility, acne, secondary sexual characteristics of men because of PCOS, irregular periods, painful periods, and so on and so forth. And there is no cure for it in allopathy. So we did come up with a product, with a formulation that actually cures PCOS, and we did take it through a set of clinical trials through the Government of India. It's a CTRI registered clinical trial. So I think clinical trials are necessary only where it makes sense. You can't be saying, I want a clinical trial for every single thing that comes out of an Ayurvedic factory. That's really not how you should be going about doing it. We have to use our intellect. We have to use our, requisite scientific acumen and background to make sure that when we ask for a clinical trial, it actually makes sense.
Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Narasimham Jammi.
Absolutely. Thank you. Pleasure.